Hey there, welcome to CatchArq. CatchArq is a space where architects and designers showing what they really love, which is architecture. Today we have here Anna. Anna is a registered architect who is living now in Australia. She's from Mexico and she has a lot of experience and we want to know your story. Anna, welcome. Thank you to be here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here and I'm really honored that you actually thought of me for this podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, no, thank you so much, honestly, for your time and being here with us. I think this is going to be a very nice conversation, just not for us to catch up with what we're doing, but as well for a lot of people that might have a lot of questions of how is it to be working and being an immigrant here in Australia, and what happens in Australia as well, because you're already part of the workforce in Australia, so that would be very nice to know exactly how is it.
Yes, and also to have information how to deal with our life here, not only in the personal way, but also in the professional. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's an honor to meet you and to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to help anyone. I'm happy to, by sharing my experience, to maybe make a little bit of a difference for any person that is watching us.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's CatchArq. But first to continue, I want to say don't forget to follow us on our Instagram, on our YouTube channel, CatchArq. It's important to us and help to continue creating content and growing together. So, let's get started, right?
Great.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
We have some questions for you. And like we mentioned before, the questions are regarding your personal life and also your work experience here. And the first question that we have is, why have you choose Australia?
That is a funny one. It's for personal reasons. So my husband is Australian. So when we were trying to figure out what to do to be together, because we did some time long distance, I saw that it would be easier, and I'm doing quotation marks because it was not that easy, for me to be easier to come here and keep working as an architect than for him to go to Mexico, because he doesn't speak Spanish. I was already speaking English. I was not speaking Australian yet.
The slangs, right?
Yeah. So so that's when I made the decision in 2014. It took me a while to decide it. I was a little bit in denial, thinking he will come here to Mexico, I will go to Australia, and then he's coming to visit me, and so on. But then a friend made me realize that we couldn't keep up like that for a long time. So we started making a plan, and that's how I arrived to Australia in mid-2014, in the middle of winter in Victoria.
Oh, wow.
So you were in Queensland in that moment?
No. I moved to Queensland last year. But yeah, I was living in Melbourne. And it was really cold when I arrived. Probably we were, 5 degrees or something, coming from the tropical side of Southeast Mexico. That is, probably was around 40 degrees at the time. So it was a big change.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah. But did you like it? Melbourne?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah?
I loved it. Melbourne is an amazing city. Even if you are not an architect, it's an amazing city. But if you're an architect, it's even more amazing. There are so very unique proposals from different architects, different styles. There's this mixture of heritage and new buildings, all coming together, and new buildings, and there's the whole range of architecture that one wants to see in a city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
sure.
When I was in Mexico, and even before that, I was focusing a lot in heritage.
Oh, nice.
So coming here and seeing all these different proposals was like my head went like, poof.
What I like about Melbourne is, like you mentioned, it's a mix between old and new, but it's really good mix. The designers make really good things there.
Yeah, I think so. I think there are really good approaches to the integration of new and old.
Yeah.
Something interesting, I mean, obviously it will depend on the taste of each person if you agree or not, but they are very interesting.
Yeah. And how did you start your architectural journey in Australia?
Well, I'm telling you, when me and my now husband, then boyfriend, were thinking about how to be together, I decided to come to Australia. I started sending CVs to my resume to different offices, but via email from Mexico to Australia. And because in Mexico, at least back in those days, I don't know how it is now, but back in those days, there was this idea that Australia was actually like actively looking for professionals to come here and live here. And
actually, there is a list, and architecture is one of them. Yes,
but it's not as easy as what I used to think back then.
Yeah, sure.
So I call it like an urban legend. That
it
was a belief that I heard somewhere. So I started sending resumes, and nothing happened. Nobody would reply, and I think only one office replied saying thank you but not thank you.
Okay.
So after a lot of times, a lot of rejection, I was like, okay, this is not the way. So what can I do? So I decided on coming as a student. But because I wanted to keep working in architecture, I decided doing a master's degree.
Okay, but you were in that moment in Mexico?
I was in Mexico.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I applied for Melbourne Uni for the Master of Architecture with a focus on sustainability. And then I started looking for a scholarship.
Oh, nice.
Because the fees are crazy.
Yeah.
And
sorry, Anna.
No, it's okay.
But you had this kind of scholarship, and who paid for that scholarship? It's the Mexican government?
Yeah, it's from the Mexican government. Yeah, so I got that scholarship, and then it was not enough. So I got the full scholarship, but then the fees were bigger than that.
Oh my.
So I got a financial loan for students from Mexico, and I had to pay it like for 5 years after I graduated.
Okay.
So that's how I got the money, and then I finally moved to Australia as a student, and I was a student for 2 years. And then when I finished, I got the graduate visa.
Okay.
And I started working as a graduate of architecture.
Okay, so in Mexico you finished your bachelor, and when you came here you did your master's.
Yeah, I already had another master's degree.
Okay.
I went to Europe like maybe 4 years before I came to Australia. 4 years? Yeah, more or less. And I studied a master's degree in diagnosis and repair of buildings with focus on heritage conservation.
Awesome. Oh, okay.
So that links with the conversation that we had before.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Awesome. So you had 2 masters.
Yep.
The first one is in heritage, and the second one is in sustainability.
It's in architecture, but it has a focus on sustainability.
Wow.
Yeah, which was very interesting because at first I was thinking maybe I'll do another master's in heritage because I was really passionate about it. But then a former professor I had in Mexico told me, but you know what, you can diversify a little bit.
Okay.
And you already know a lot about heritage, maybe just learn more about something else and something that will help you get the scholarship. So actually focusing the master's into sustainability gave me the opportunity to get the full scholarship. Otherwise, I was only going to get like 10% of the scholarship if it was only architecture.
I understand.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's good to diversify.
Yeah. I think it's a very nice mix. Like you can start to understand from the sustainability perspective how to integrate the old and the new. Like what needs to be done, like go, and what can you actually keep. with that kind of perspective, which is very interesting. Is what we need to.
Yeah, exactly. Like in here, you will see some heritage houses, and then they're beautiful. They have a lot of history behind, but then you don't want to spend the winter there because the insulation is not great. So it's good to mix it, to upgrade the building and make it like upgrade it to the current times.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's great. Well, in that sense, when you arrive here and you start your new journey as a student again, how did it feel to starting over? How was Australia with you in that sense?
wow, it was on the personal level, I guess on both levels, it was pretty hard.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to scare anyone who's thinking of getting a master's degree in a foreign country. But yeah, I mean, the reality is that it's not easy.
Yeah,
in the sense that you arrive to a country where it's not your language. So, and the accent in Australia, at least, is very, very different to what I was used to, because I learned English with a lot
American accent.
English
Yes.
accent. So it was not the same, or some words are different. So it was not easy in that sense. And also most of the people studying at the university were either Australian or Asian. So I couldn't find that connection with Latin American people. And then suddenly I met this Colombian guy who became my best friend. I remember
Another Latin.
Yeah, I remember we were in a big. It was during the orientation week, the first week of uni, where they explain you how the university works. And there was a professor giving us the welcoming, and he said, like, who is from this part of the world and this other part of the world, and who's from Latin America? And the guy in front of me raised his hand. And I was like, where are you from?
Hey, mate.
Yeah. So we started talking. And
you look Latin. Tell me you're Latin.
Yeah. So if he's seeing Sergio, he's back in Colombia now. Now he has a PhD.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
he's a very smart person. He's a professor. Yeah.
Nice, very clever.
Yeah.
Okay, in that
Yeah.
sense, like,
And he actually introduced me to a lot of people who became my friends.
Oh, so good.
That was great, because my first semester I felt really lonely. I only had Sergio and one other friend. But then Sergio started introducing me to other people, not only Latin Americans, but people from other countries like Israel or Iran. And I discovered these rich cultures and exchanges. That it was very unique.
Like food, for example.
Oh God, yes! Oh my God, Iranian food. I didn't know it was so good, but it's amazing. Yeah.
well, and in this type, because I think it happens to all of us. We think that you arrive here and you're gonna be like somehow not feeling that like a stranger, but I think we all kind of feel like a stranger, at least at the beginning. So that homesick feeling, did you get it, or like?
Yeah, I think I had like up and downs.
Ups and downs, yeah.
But yeah, like getting to know more people, that helped a lot. Also getting used to it. Also hello to my husband Ian. he was my rock and still is my rock. He gave so much support, and he had so much patience.
Yeah, sure. It's not easy.
It's whenever you move to a new country, you have to find your network, your support network. That's going to help you a lot. That's not only for the professional side, but also the personal side, which is very, very important, because if you are not feeling fine physically and mentally, you cannot think of what your goals are and how you're going to reach them.
Yeah,
and
sure.
things are going to become harder, and you're not going to enjoy the experience.
And if from those challenges moments, like what is the biggest that you think, oh, I'm quitting, I'm packing my bags and I'm going back? Like, what was that breaking moment, and how did you?
I think
How could you cover it?
I mean, I was feeling lonely because I've always been like a social person.
Yeah.
That was something really hard that happened, that I felt really lonely. But at the same time, I was thinking, no, like give it time. So I didn't think of just packing bags and going
Never
back to Mexico.
happened.
No, but it's been hard finding a place that I like to work at. A place where I like to get up and go to work, and probably that was a tough part, because back when I was in Mexico, I was teaching. I was a professor at university, and also I was working on my own, like designing. I was doing like small designs for refurbishments for residencies and offices.
Yeah.
But I was doing like things that were mine, and it was my design, like my clients, my process. But arriving here, I felt I had to start all over again.
Yeah, from scratch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was a tough feeling, thinking like, oh, I went back, I don't know how many years, maybe like 5-6 years in my career.
Yes, like you are wasting your time, like your time from your professional career, right?
And even though I loved living here, I loved the quality of life in Australia, I love living with my husband, but I was like, oh, my career.
Yeah, like, and this ego, because we already, because we're not really starting from scratch. We already gave at least 5 years of our lives to study a career. I don't know how many more if you had to work at the same time or had to repeat a subject, whatever. After that, I think all of us have at least one master. After that, we have professional experience. We all did heaps of stuff before coming here. Like, we have a lot of like a baggage in our professional career, that to come here and say like, is this really worthless? Like,
And you cannot
really
say, I'm an architect.
I know,
that hurts, right?
and it's true, that hurts. I totally agree with you, but also it's very like hard to understand how the systems work here. It's too hard, it's too different. So this kind of cultural gap and professional gap that we have it's also a challenge.
Yes, and even I studied for 2 years at university. I never really understood while I was in university how the industry worked.
Yeah.
So it was until I started working that I realized, oh, okay, so this is a project architect. Oh, this is a graduate. Oh, this is that. And also that there are other disciplines like building designers or drafters. Or different roles and also careers.
Specific role.
Yes, it's very specific.
Yeah.
And they work a lot. They have a lot of clients, they have a lot of projects, and they are in some points like architects, I would understand, at least I'm from Argentina, so they work as an architect sometimes because they can do residence, they can design.
Yeah,
so
they're building designers.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the difference between, one of the many differences, one is the time they work. The time they study. Because I think it's only like 3 years,
3 years.
of bachelor and 1 year of like a specialty or whatever. And then, like, I'm sorry if any building design must be screaming on the TV like, no, it's not like that. But I think it's only like 3 years plus 1 extra year, like graduate or something. And then for architects, it's 3 years of bachelor and 2 years of masters. And then you are a graduate of architecture. And then another difference is that the building designers cannot build anything taller than 3 levels. At least that's what it was in Victoria. I don't know if in Queensland it's the same.
I believe it's class 1 to 10. They can. It's only residential, and there are different kind of classes here in Australia. So I believe it's 1 to 10.
No, 1 to 10 is all the classes.
It's all the classes?
Yeah, class 1 is residential. Class 2, I think, is apartments. Class 3 is like
local.
It's retail,
like
commercial.
When you have hotels or things like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they can build multi-res, and they can build single residential, but they cannot build something that is taller than 3 levels.
As buildings.
As building designers, yeah. Architects can build taller than that. But also, like, there are some like limitations for building designers, and also I feel that's my
Impression.
that's my impression. There is, and I don't think it's good. I feel like from the architectural world, there is a little bit of like non-appreciation for building designers. And there are building designers that are really talented and really good at their job.
Yeah, sure.
And I think they should get more recognition for what they do. So I think it's a different niche where they work than the architects, but also they should receive more credit for that. Yeah.
Well,
it's just I worked at a building designers firm when
really?
as soon as I left uni.
Oh, look at that. Look
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
I believe from my perspective, it's a good approach to start your career. For example, when you're studying for being an architecture, you are not sure if you really like what is going to be an architect. So maybe you can start like from step by step. So I believe a building designer is something in the middle that could be a good way to how to start.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it was my first 2 years of work. I was working with a building designer, like really talented, and he was focusing on sustainable buildings. But the thing is that you cannot get registered as an architect if you're working under a building designer.
Okay, so there are different paths.
You have to.
You have to choose.
Work
With
with the supervision of a registered architect in order for your hours to count.
Okay.
Because, you need to, in order to get registered, you need to make all these this registration of the hours that you have worked of your experience, and also classify it. If you just watch, that's observation. If they told you what to do, that's participation. And if you took initiative or if you did something on your own, that's like expertise or something. I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, it's all right.
But
it's all right. There are a lot of different kind of terms.
But the thing is, when I started looking for like getting my hours, I realized the hours that I worked with the building designer did not count.
Oh, look at that. Well, these kind of techniques, tips are very useful for us. And I was thinking about language, but I would like to change now the topic.
Yeah, we can start here and then we come back there.
Yes, because it's very interesting for us. If you could give in tips, as you mentioned before, regarding with how is the process to get your own registration here.
Yes.
Do you remember, like, because there are a lot of steps? So
there are 3 main steps. Well, kind of. What I mean is the exam, the APE, the Architectural Professional or Practical Exam, is divided in 3 parts. So one part is where you register all your hours. So I think you can download from the website, or that was when I did it back in 2022. You download like an Excel spreadsheet. And then you have to register all the hours that you did, but you have around 15 competencies, they call it. 15. So it goes from like sketch design, but it's all divided, like all the activities that you do on sketch design, or the competencies that you need to know through concept design, design detailing, construction documentation, and then administration.
Okay.
The thing is, if you are not a registered architect, you cannot do any administration. Administration is, for example, when you go on site and you make decisions, or like different things that have to do more with the construction site than with all the design, and that only can be done by the architect.
Okay. We call us as architect or director.
Yeah,
as
like
a director.
The site director.
Yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, in Australia, architects are not 100% involved in the construction. So we don't do supervision. We do, I forgot the word.
But the bilingual part.
Inspection, sorry, inspection.
Okay.
So we do inspections.
Yeah.
And they tell you that there is a specific course that you can take. Well, I think there are two in Australia. The one I took is called PARC, like Practice of Architecture. And it's really, really good because it takes you through all the stages that you need to know about law, about the regulations, about how everything works and who should be in charge of what. And they prepare you for the exam, for all the stages of the exam.
Okay.
So anyway, you complete all the 15 competencies with your hours. You need to complete 3,300 hours, which is around 2 years, a little bit more of 2 years.
But this is work experience or this is...
This is work
For
experience.
the
Okay.
experience in
In-
the competences, like you have to feel them
Yeah.
And in
one
Australia?
by one. Yeah.
It
Could be
It's,
overseas?
they say like the vanilla, like what everybody does or the expected is in Australia.
Okay.
If you have hours overseas, you can put them, but then I think it's the criteria of the board if they
Okay.
want to accept them or not.
Okay.
So it's better to have all the hours from Australia.
Okay, so you need work experience in all these terms.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
In
exactly.
Australia.
Yeah, and for the last bit that I told you that only registered architects can do, you cannot say that you were, you know that I told you observant, participant, or I think expert or
Like
executant,
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, so those three, as you register your hours, you say if you were observant, participant, or executant.
Okay.
But for the admin, you cannot be executant. So you can only register those hours as observant. I don't know if you can do it as participant. I don't remember at the moment. But anyway, you register everything. It's if you just graduate or as soon as you start, that is
Advice.
an
piece of
advice, a tip that I want to give everyone. As soon as you start working, start checking which ones are the competencies that you're required to have and start logging in all your hours.
So because of that, it's important to start working with an architect.
Because when you get to the time when you want to do your registration, you don't have to go back and start thinking, what did I do? What is this? What is that? And it takes so much time. So in order to save you time, I think it's a good good practice to do it for the exam, but also it's a good practice to do it for whenever you do your resume.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
you know exactly which
Exactly
competences you know you have, you applied, which level, and all that. So whenever you put it in your resume, you go to an interview, it can help you a lot.
All right.
Well, that's a very good tip, Anna. Yeah,
like really.
It is because when we came here, you are really lost. You don't know where to start.
And you start like filling the CVs. Of course, you come with experience, but you don't know how to exactly show it. And I don't know how many times we have done our CVs, like multiple times, because we start to get rejected or just see that no one calls back. So you say, okay, I have the experience. The role says,
But you know how to express it.
like it has everything the offer says. I'm confident I can deal with it. Why is no one calling me back? So probably it's a disconnection there with the CV and the cover letter that we're not able to express, so they can feel that it's like we were lost. How it works here.
Yeah, another tip for that is that you write everything, especially what they look for. What I have discovered in my experience, I don't know if everybody does that, but what I have discovered in my experience is that more than seeing like a chronologic description of the places where you have worked and the things you have done, is more about your experience. Like if you have I don't know, directed a team of graduates, if you have documented this type of building or this other type of building, things like that, like the practical things are more what they are looking. Also, it varies on like role to role and company from company, but I have discovered that helps a lot to get called back. And
That's the value.
yeah,
Well, that's
because
what they are looking for.
if you say like from this year to this year I study here, and then from this year to this year, I work here. And they're like, oh yeah, great, but what did you do?
And sorry, yeah.
Oh no, and just like now we're in advices and tips of what we're doing for the registration. When the moment came, like when you just arrived to Australia, like what is that thing or the main 2-3 things that you would love to know before, like you said?
Well, one, knowing how the industry works. Like, what does it mean being a graduate? When I arrived to Australia, I didn't know anything about graduates, about registered architects, about anything.
Like most of us.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I mean, back in Mexico, you finish your bachelor and you're an architect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. That's
And
Holland
you
as
don't
well,
need to.
yeah.
I mean, you get your
Quality.
in Mexico
Yeah.
we call it cédula. It's like a registration number.
Yeah, we have it like
But-
the registration number.
Yeah, but
it's a different like a process, but you don't have a test. It's just you finish your studies, you make this kind of register, and that's all. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
but
it's not that complicated.
yeah,
And in Mexico, you graduate. In my university, back in those days, it was thesis. So I made a thesis. I presented the thesis. I passed. That was the exam, like making a presentation and answering questions and blah blah blah, and that was it. And then you get your title. You're an architect. And then, if you wanted to have a valid signature for plans
Yeah.
and for the council and all that, you can register as a perito. I don't know how to
Okay.
say that in
Okay.
English, but it's the person who is who knows all the regulations and can sign, and is the person responsible for that design. In here it's not like that at all. So when I arrived, I didn't know anything about registered architect. I didn't know. I started working with a building designer because I liked his designs. I liked his approach. It was all about sustainability, but I didn't know that I wouldn't get any hours for the registration. So I was there for 2 years. I'm not saying I wasted any
No,
years,
sure,
because it
sure.
was all a lot of
Experience.
I learned a
Yes.
lot
yes,
there,
yeah, sure.
but I didn't know. So then usually people when they graduate from the masters, they work for 2-3 years and then they start applying for the registration.
So 2 years is
It's the minimum,
okay.
2 years experience. But I was already 2 years and I didn't have any hours, any
Yes,
valid hours.
yes.
So I had to wait for longer. I graduated in 2016 and I started taking the PARC course in 2020, 4 years later. And also I didn't know about the course. So when I heard about the registration, I was like, how do I prepare for that? And then at the office where I was working, I was already working at an architect's office. And then I heard of a guy who got registered, and I started asking him, how do you do it? And he said, oh, I just took the course from PARC. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
I started Googling. I mean, but that was probably my third year working in the industry. So I was a little bit shy of asking people questions. That's also something that I don't recommend. Like, if you don't know something, ask.
Yeah, sure.
Just ask. Nobody's gonna make fun of you. But I had that. Like I was like,
Like
How
introvert.
is it gonna be that I don't know? Like I'm down here already working, I should know that kind of feeling, or
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you don't know what you should ask.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
You
true.
can't ask what do you know.
Yeah.
Exactly, because we come as well with this in our minds, and we just expect that, like, it probably is our mistake in that sense, that we expect that this works as where we come from, and it has all different rules, and it's our job as well to catch up with rules, kind of.
Yes. I believe them. Well, we have different questions regarding with that, but the main gap between Latin America and Australia is that here the work experience is very valued. So I believe in Latin America is more focused on your academic experience. As we mentioned before, after you finish your study, you are an architect, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
here you aren't. So you are a graduate. And after the graduate, maybe you are a designer. And after that, if you do the registration, you can be an architect. Or
Yeah.
what do we call or what we know what is be an architect?
Yeah, that's right. and that you can make your own design, your own
Yes.
stuff, or that you can work, or even, and actually this might sound a little bit shallow of me, but when people ask me, why did you decide on to do the registration? Well, one thing is I thought it was the next step in my career. But the other thing is I hated it after all these years
Yeah.
studying. I mean, it was 5 years in Mexico of bachelor. It's not 3 like in here. It was
I
5.
know, yeah, we have 5 years for years.
I'm feeling exactly the same.
And then 1.5 in Europe, and then 2 here. So that's
Yeah.
7, 8 and a half,
know.
almost 9 years. And I couldn't call myself an architect.
Architect, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But it's just the fact
But
that
yeah.
you're just in the industry, like, I don't know. What does someone who studies, I don't know, I'm going to say something very stupid, but because I don't know how it works in other careers, but I know, what does someone who studies law, what is it? A lawyer. And stuff like that. Like, I'm not an architect. Like,
Yeah,
what am I going to say?
exactly.
Like, it just jumps out and then it's illegal. I was in a conference and it was this girl that was very clever, the way she speaks. She was very young, like, demanding the things, everything. Like a very, very nice speech from her. And she was like, oh, and I'm a graduate of architecture because I don't want to. Like, it's a thing here, it's a local thing. It's not just for immigrants. It's just a thing that we all know that we got effort, like taking these titles and everything, and we start working, and even that we aren't able to call ourselves architect, which I don't understand. Like it could be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like-
that happens. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just that it's very confusing, and that's the other thing. I've been here about 2 years. I just got to know this about like 4 months ago. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know
About the
that
registration?
I couldn't call myself an architect.
Oh.
Like
yeah,
I
me neither.
had
Yeah,
no
you can get a
clue.
fine.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it's like, and it's not that I haven't researched things, but that's the thing. We have so much information about everything that if you don't know what you're looking for, hardly you're gonna find exactly the answer you need.
Yeah.
So I think it's been the journey for a lot of us in that sense, that we don't know. So that's why we think these spaces are very valuable for us, because then we know what to search, when, like, what are the questions we need to make.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's different. I mean, the industry here is different than in our countries in Latin America, and we need to learn from it. But I think what you guys are doing is really, really valuable, because then people from other parts of the world can learn about that before even coming to Australia, and they don't have to discover this. Like, I feel like I hit myself with a wall so many times because I didn't know about all these things.
Thank you,
And
Anya.
I'm really happy to share a little bit of it. And that's huge motivation for me whenever I can help anyone, because I know it's hard.
Yes, yeah.
It's really hard.
Can I ask you something really personal?
Sure.
If you know in the past about how hard it will take, or it is going to be for you, all your professional path here in Australia, have you chosen Australia anyway?
Yeah. Of course. Now I can tell I'm an architect in Australia. Well, in Queensland, because that's another thing. When you register, you only register in the state where you take the exam. If you need and that was one like an exam question. If you, for example, you live in Brisbane, in Queensland, and you have a project in New South Wales, and your client lives in Perth, in Western Australia, you have to be registered in the 3 states in order to perform that project.
All right.
But once you are registered, it's really easy to do the convalidation.
Okay, well, that's
okay,
a
it's
good-
not the
You
same
just
process
send,
in each
no.
state.
No, fortunately, no. So when I got registered in Victoria, and then when I moved here, I just sent my information, and then I got registered here.
Like somehow it is valid.
It's just
In
like
the
a
country.
transfer, yeah. Because in general, the baseline is the same,
Okay.
and
Okay.
there are few things that change from state to state. For example, in Victoria, if you register and you're gonna work on your own, if you're gonna make, I don't know, your auntie's kitchen, you have to have an insurance, which is called the PI insurance. The professional insurance is for professional liability.
Okay.
So in case something goes wrong and someone sues you, that insurance covers you.
Okay.
Okay.
In case you screw up, that insurance covers you.
Oh.
So that is if you're going to practice on your own. If you're working with a company, that company has a PI insurance that covers you, covers
Okay.
all the professionals that work
Employers.
for that company. But if you're working in that company and you're doing your outside projects, you're not covered, and you don't have insurance, you're not covered by the company. So
Makes sense.
in Victoria, by law, you have to have the PI insurance if you're doing your own thing. In Queensland, it's not like that. In Queensland, for what I learned when I moved here, is that, and the board told me that when I did the convalidation, you have to, it's on your own risk, but you have to tell your client that you don't have a PI insurance. So there are like differences like that. But in general, all the other stuff is pretty much the same.
So working here in Australia already, that's what one of the other questions we have, like, how is it difference between Melbourne, Brisbane, like Victoria and Queensland, like, but do you have any preference of how it works, or basically in the practice itself is pretty much the same?
Well, it depends on the practice. It depends on the company. In Melbourne, I worked for 5 years before coming here. I worked for 5 years at a company called NH Architecture. They're a big company in Melbourne. They have done really amazing projects. I was more focused on retail. I was on the retail area of the company, but there were other like sports and arts and stuff like that. And then I moved here, and I'm with Cox Architecture, and they're even a bigger company.
All right.
And because they have, NH has a really amazing office, but it's only in Melbourne. Cox has offices in every capital city in Australia and also in New Zealand.
Oh.
So it's bigger, but also the projects are also very, very interesting. So there's a lot of variety. So you will think that because Brisbane is a smaller city, projects will be smaller, but no, there are also like big projects, very interesting projects, and there's a big variety.
Oh, okay.
So but I've been at other companies in Brisbane, and they were like smaller projects, and so it depends a lot on the company.
Where you're gonna work hard.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I have a question regarding with language, because here CatchArq started as a project where we want to practice English language, especially in the architectural field.
Mm-hmm.
So in your case, for example, Anna, how was for you to get in touch with this kind of techniques? How was that?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, I learned a little bit at uni. Like for example, I had these. There were different subjects. Like for example, there was one subject that was very interesting. That was kind of like theory of architecture, and they will teach you more like what was happening at the time with architecture. It was not like let's learn about the Corbusier or Michelangelo. It was more like things that are happening now, like big architecture or I don't know, mad architects. And yeah, so and what their idea was. Actually, I got the opportunity to go to one of I think it was for Mad Architects, the lead architect, the director of that company that is huge in China. He went to Melbourne University and he gave a conference.
Wow, that's so useful.
That was really
like
cool.
Experience, like.
Yeah. So a lot I learned at uni, but the technical things that you use every day at work, I learned at work.
Working.
So sometimes my director, I told you I worked at a building designers firm. It was a very, very tiny firm. It was only the director and myself. And he would start explaining to me, okay, so we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then he was drawing a detail and telling me, yeah, so this is the flashing, this is the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and then what I used to do, Google. So sometimes I wouldn't understand a word. I would say like I'm sorry, like excuse me, okay, could you please repeat that? So that's something. Those are really good phrases to use. Like, could you please repeat that?
Yeah.
And even I remember I struggle a lot when people will call me over the phone. Oh
yes.
my God.
Yes. It's hard.
It's
hard.
really hard.
Because face to face, you can see the lips and you can...
And the intention, the
Yes.
body language.
Yeah,
but
sure.
on the phone, it was really hard. So sometimes I will have to say, could you please repeat that? Could you please spell that?
Or also with tradies, for example,
Yeah.
they speak very fast and they use a lot of slangs.
And with the
Yeah.
accent too.
Yes.
Yeah, like
So-
a big accent.
Yeah.
True.
So I
And
would,
connecting speech, sorry, Anna, but
No, it's okay.
it's like maybe they make one word with a lot of words inside.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yes, I know. It's
So yeah,
hard.
like the importance of being always kind of exposed to it. I think, I don't know if that would be one of the advices, but something that I found very useful for my own journey here in Australia is always being exposed to Australians as much as I can.
Yes, sure.
Like
Sure.
at the beginning, it's really hard. I sometimes still feel like an outsider. Like, what are they saying? What are they talking? And sometimes it's not even the English, because sometimes you understand the words, but then you don't understand the context because it's
Yeah.
something cultural. But it's important to keep in touch into it, because then when you have to deal with the things that are very specific, like whatever happens in a project or anything, it's very important that at least you have the skills to very gentle and polite stop the person. Hey, sorry, I couldn't understand this. Could you repeat this for me? Could you spell it? Could you write it? Can you draw it? Whatever you need to actually understand it. I think are skills that you develop being exposed all the time to the culture, because you have to learn somehow to make yourself for them understandable and find ways for yourself to understand them. Like it doesn't matter how, but I think it would be very practical.
It is very useful to ask. What I do, and I even do it now. Like if I don't understand, I say, could you please repeat that? Because I have worked with tradies, but also other like co-workers who are not Australian, and English is not the first language. Also, I can struggle understanding what they're saying.
Yeah.
So I ask, could you please repeat that? Or I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the last part that you said. Things like that. And no one has ever been rude to me.
Well, that's important.
So
people used to be very polite.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if they see that you're making
very
a
patient.
true
Yes.
effort, and obviously you're not going to be asking every 5 minutes, like, can you please repeat that?
Yeah.
But when you're really struggling,
Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, so I think that helped a lot, like asking for repetition. Also, whatever I didn't understand, if I could get the word but I didn't know the meaning, writing them down and then going to Google, what does this mean? Or sometimes I get an email and I don't understand what they're saying, and then like the other day I read this expression like if you're over the fence, and I'm like, over the fence, what does that mean? And I went to Google, and it means that your opinion is not one way or the other, like you're neutral on one opinion.
Oh, right.
So you're over the fence. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like be very resourceful at the
Yeah.
time that you need to understand
So
something.
I just go to Google, like, what does this mean? And I'm always Googling, what does this mean in construction? What does this mean in architecture? What does this mean? And usually you find the answer.
And we have now ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very convenient.
Yeah, that's right. That is right.
Okay, just as a closing, fortunately, the times.
Yeah, we are running out
But
of time.
I would like to kind of try to close with kind of a couple of questions. The first one, how do you see architecture in Australia? Like now, working here, being here, just as a general picture.
I think it's very interesting. Probably I've said that word a lot, but it's just I find there are approaches to architecture in here that I haven't seen, for example, in Mexico. I mean, in Mexico, I didn't work in big projects. I worked in more like residential or like small commercial, like offices. But in here, I had the opportunity to work in different types, like retail, commercial, sports. And also, I've seen what my colleagues are doing. And sometimes I get surprised by the interventions they do in the city. And sometimes, like, my surprise might be good, my surprise might be bad. But I think it's really good that even though there are regulations, at least there's a little bit more of freedom to what I could find in other countries.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. That's very interesting.
Like in the way of
Interesting
like
is the word of the podcast.
Contradictory. Yeah. And it gives the space for discussion, you know, like do you like it, you don't like it, but yeah, I think it's really good. Brisbane is growing a lot at the moment, and it's going to grow even more because of in the next years because of the Olympics. So I think it's a great time to be in Brisbane and
as an architect,
working
or as a graduate of architecture.
I love Brisbane, to be honest. It's so clean and it's so peaceful and green. It's a green city.
Yeah.
And peaceful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Well, Anna, we are closing this space. Thank you so much to be here with us, to share your experience, not only personal, but work experience. It's like you are amazing. All your career, it's very inspirational for us, and thank you so much.
Thank you once again.
Those kind of things where you say, if you can't, why not? I can too.
Yes.
Like, really, really thank you so much for all your support and openness to us.
Yes.
That's no way to say it, but to be open to us.
Yeah, openness. Yeah. No, I'm like, actually, like what I told you at the beginning, I'm really honored to be here. I'm really honored that you actually thought of me for making the second episode of your podcast, which is amazing. And I think you are making a great contribution to all the people who want to come here or who are already here and want to start working or being part of the architectural industry. So that is great what you're doing. So that's why I'm happy to be part of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I want to be there, and let's catch up. Other opportunity.
Yeah. See you next time. Thank you so much all for your time and support. More than anything, your support. Thank you so much.
See you.
See ya.